I have another stove test for you. Something a little different this time. I'm going to be testing my small Lixada folding wood stove with wood pellets. What's so different about that? I actually have 3 small Lixada stoves. So I'm going to be using wood pellets in 2 of them. I'm going to be using alcohol in the 3rd one. And the reason is, I'm doing a combination of comments that I've had from some of the viewers. Originally I wasn't going to do that with these stoves. I wasn't going to try wood pellets, but I've decided to because, like the Emberlet and like the other stoves, if you're carrying it with you, this might be an alternative fuel for using in the woods when you can't get a fire to start with the wet wood that's around you. Yes, alcohol is a good option. That was one of the things a viewer pointed out. Why am I going through all this work to get wood pellets going using alcohol when the same amount of alcohol probably would have brought the water to a boil as well? So that's what I'm going to do. Set up and do 3 stoves simultaneously. 2 with wood pellets, 1 with alcohol. The stoves are all exactly the same with some modifications, which I'm going to show you. So let me set up. I've also got something else I want to show you about the little wood stoves that you may not have seen before, certainly not on my channel. So let me get set up and I'll show you what I'm doing. Stand by. So a good question would be is, Mark, how did you end up with 3 of these stoves, especially since 2 of them are not the hinged version? Well, in past videos I had talked about how this stove, this is my original one, how quickly the thing will fall apart, just like that. And I didn't much like that. I found that that was very frustrating. So after doing some searching, I had come up with this stove marketed by Lixada. Sorry for the noise. And this is all hinged together. I'm going to put that together in a second and make use of that as well. But I had thought I was buying another one of these on eBay, and what I ended up with was another one of those. And here it is here, brand new, unused, no burning at all. But I've done something to this stove which appears to make it a lot more stable. As you can see, it's not falling apart on me. And I give the credit to this to the channel Same Old 77. Now you may not know him, maybe you already are a subscriber of his channel. If you're not, I'd highly recommend that you go over and check him out. He has some really cool stuff. And what Same Old 77 had done is taken the wood stove, brand new out of the box, and I've already done it, put it together like this, laid it out and flattened it. And what that does is ever so slightly bends the tabs in such a way that it makes it much more stable. It still comes apart, it still folds down fairly flat, but it's much more stable, and the big deal here is it doesn't fall apart while you're using it. So let's put this one back together. You can see already how much of a more stable assembly it is. Thank you, Same Old 77, for doing that. I'm going to put this one together in a second. What I'm going to do with my brand new stove is I'm going to maximize, or at least I feel, maximize its performance with 2 things. Just a piece of aluminum flashing punched with a hole punch for a number of holes. That's going to block the feed port on the front of the stove so my wood pellets don't pour out. In addition, a couple of pieces of aluminum bars that I put together for a cross stand, and I'll show you how that works as I get set up to go as well. Because as I've mentioned, and other people have as well, airflow is everything with these small stoves. One thing that this small stove has over the Emberlet is holes in the bottom of the burn plate to allow air to come up through. Yeah, that does create a bit of an issue with embers falling through. Not a lot, but it does, so I usually put a piece of tin foil on the ground when I'm using these in the wood for that reason. But with the addition of these 2 aluminum crossbars and that small piece of aluminum flashing, I expect that I'm going to get the best performance out of this stove. But the only way to know is to test it, compare it against the other 2 stoves. So let me set the 3 stoves up, fill them with wood pellets, and we'll get going from there. Stand by. Alright, so I have my 3 stoves assembled. The brand new one is utilizing the crossbars from aluminum and a small piece of flashing in the front to keep the pellets from pouring out. My original one, a little unsteady, and I'm a little nervous of it, but it appears to be stable right now. I had to pour the pellets in at an angle to make sure they didn't fall out the front. And my third, my folding Lixada with the included small bowl that's intended for burning alcohol. So what I'm going to do is pour alcohol gel on the first 2, and then light those up. When they come to a good flame, then I'll put alcohol in the 3rd one, and then I'll put my water on all 3 at the same time. So let's get these 2 going. I think I can probably do that even with that crossbar right in place. I'm using the alcohol gel to light these 2 up again because liquid alcohol tends to pour right through. So that looks like about 2 tablespoons. Same thing there. You know, I could test this with the gel alcohol, but I'm going to use the liquid for that. Let's get that started. Going, yes, whoa. And that going, yes. So there's not going to be much to see for a few minutes until the flames really start to take off inside of these stoves. So when I'm just about ready to put the kettles on, or the 3 pots on, I'll bring you back. Alright, it's been 6 minutes since I lit the alcohol gel on the 2 wood stoves. Interesting observation right off the top. The brand new stove that's utilizing the crossbars and the piece of flashing with holes in it appears to be burning much more rapidly and much hotter than the original stove with its wide open front port. No good explanation for that, but what I can see is secondary gases being drawn in through the holes on that little piece of aluminum flashing and burning off the top. So I have been told, and rightfully so by my good friend Randall Graham, that anything that burns from the top down and has a way of allowing oxygen to come in from the top, as the product, in this case the wood pellets, carbonize, they're going to be giving off gases, and if there's air being able to be introduced to it at that point, of course it's going to have a gasification type of an effect. So we're ready to start our water. The only thing left for me to do is to put the alcohol in the 3rd one. So this one is going to get 2 tablespoons of alcohol, or methyl hydrate in this case. Pour that into the little bowl that's intended for this purpose. Drop a little bit, of course. Yes, and of course it is going. Using a thrift store find, one of the large tea kettles. But for the other 2, I'm going to put on my GSI kettle and my MSR stowaway pot. Now what I didn't mention in the beginning was I'm using 1 cup of wood pellets in each of the first 2 stoves. 2 tablespoons of methyl hydrate in the 3rd stove. There is a bit of a breeze starting to pick up now, so I am going to put a windscreen around them to best effect. So what I'll do now is I'll cut away, and as each of these comes to a boil, as I expect they will at some point, I'll bring it back and we'll see how it's going. Stand by. Alright, interesting development. Just over 3 minutes since I put the pots on top of the stoves. There's some heat, yeah. Okay, the wood stove that I used, standard style. Sorry. Let's produce. I can't tell. I'm not sure if it's gone out or not. It's certainly not burning well. Of course, we know what happened last time that I had that experience. Honestly, not seeing if there's any flames there. Alright, well, I'm going to put the kettle back on, but just over 3 minutes, and the first stove is just about to boil. How's my alcohol doing? Oh, that's long since gone. Yep. So, 2 of the stoves have stopped functioning. The stove that had just alcohol, 2 ounces of alcohol, 2 cups of cold water, burnt out before it brought to a boil. Water is hot, but it didn't come to a boil. Stove with wood pellets, standard stove, no modifications. The wood pellets didn't stay lit. Stove that I modified with the crossbars and a bit of flashing with holes punched in it to keep the pellets from coming out is very rapidly coming to a boil. In fact, it is boiling. Not hard, but it is boiling. And that's under 4 minutes since I put it on. Let's just watch another couple of minutes and see what happens. Stand by. All right, let me clear away the windscreen because I want you to see this. I no sooner turned the camera off a minute ago. Check my water again. Full rolling boil, so 4 minutes. What it took to put 2 cups of water, cold tap water, to a boil. What have we got underneath? That's a nice looking flame pattern. Lots of flame, lots of pellets left. The alcohol burnt out, as I had mentioned. The one with the GSI kettle, the original, I decided to give that another chance. Put some more alcohol gel in, and seems to be burning a little bit better now, so we'll put the kettle back on. I'm not restarting that from scratch, but I am going to see how much longer it takes to bring it to a boil. All right, well, that was good. I'm going to take this off. What we'll do is we'll watch these burn and get a total burn time on these. I'll bring you back. 30 minutes into the test. The wood stove with the modifications, the crossbar and the screen, is still going quite strong. It's starting to calm down a little. The other stove, the pellets are struggling. They've gone out again. I blew on them, brought them back to flame, removed the windscreen, turned them into the opening into the wind, and I just can't seem to keep them going. I'd even decided when they were going that I would give it another test by starting all over again with 2 cups of cold water. As you can see, all I have is smoke. I wonder if I can get it going again. Now I just can't seem to get them to reignite. This was certainly a success. I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but is what it is. All right, I think we've seen enough to do some closing comments on this. Well, I don't know. This test leaves me with more questions than it does answers. I was very impressed with the small stove with the crossbars and the protection to keep the pellets from coming out. Whatever reason, that thing just burned beautifully. In fact, it brought water to a boil in 4 minutes, continued to flame strongly and right up until past 30 minutes. That was a successful test. But the stove right next to it being identical, the only thing I hadn't done differently is it didn't have the crossbars or the screen to keep the pellets from coming out. Just couldn't keep the pellets lit. I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that I had to put the pellets in on a bit of an angle to keep them from falling out. They both had the same amount of fuel starter to get them going in the first place. Just couldn't keep it lit. I'll ask you, does anybody have any suggestions on why I couldn't keep those pellets lit in that small stove? So, that's what these tests are all about. You don't always get the answers you think you're going to get when you start. I did expect the stove with the crossbars to burn faster because, as we know, airflow is everything. There was good airflow coming up from the bottom. There was airflow coming in from the side. It did have the holes and a little piece of flashing to allow airflow in. And it took the pot off the top of the stove a little bit to allow airflow through it. That's a modification that's worth doing to any of these small stoves, to get the pot up just a little bit to allow the flame and the air to continue to move up through. Other than that, I don't know what to say, but I open it up to you. If you have any comments, any suggestions, I'm welcome to hear them. In the meantime, I think I'll go out and do a little exploring in the woods. When I come back, I think I'll do a few more tests. Why don't you get out and explore and take that path less traveled? It'll make all the difference. Bye for now.